applies here. We have replaced 1970s era landing mat fence that was easy to compromise, or vehicle barriers that were easy to defeat, with state-of-the-art infrastructure and detection capabilities. The wall system you see behind me is an undeniable impediment to smugglers, traffickers, and other criminals who have exploited our lack of effective border infrastructure to smuggle drugs, illicit goods, and engage in human trafficking. The wall system is also a powerful deterrent to criminal organizations and to others attempting to illegally smuggle individuals into the United States. And we do call it a wall system because it's just that. It's not only an effective physical barrier to illegal entry, but it's also embedded with tactical lighting, access roads, cameras, fiber optic cables, and the like to make sure that our agents can respond quickly and have access to this ground. I also want to emphasize an important point here. Everywhere I go along the border, I ask our agents, the men and women of the Border Patrol, what do you need to secure the border? Our agents are very clear. There's no ambiguity in their response. Number one on their wish list is a border wall system. Every day, we provide our men and women in military the very best technology to keep us safe and secure. We should treat our professionals at CBP and the Border Patrol the very same way. They know this environment, they know the challenges, and through their experiences, they know the technology they need. It's time to stop second guessing our professionals. The President has listened to his operators and is delivering on this promise. As the chief said, to put it simply, walls work. And when we look at wall construction historically, we see that when walls go up, illegal apprehensions, illegal crossings go down. When the wall system went up in San Diego, illegal crossings went down 27%. When the wall system went up in Tucson, illegal crossings went down 24%. And here in Yuma, when the wall system went up, illegal crossings in that area decreased by over 78%. I said it before and I'll say it again, walls work, and the facts simply do not lie. We are confident that these 100 miles and all future miles will make the United States more safer and more secure for years to come. But I will say that the border wall system is only one successful element of the President's strategy to address illegal migration. First, we're restoring integrity to our immigration system. We have effectively ended catch and release, which eliminates the insidious incentive to exploit children for entry into the United States, which stuffed the pockets of human smugglers and put countless children in harm's way. A child is no longer a free ticket to enter the United States and never to be heard from again. The end of catch and release is the restoration of humanitarian relief across the border. We also have more tools than ever before to quickly remove, repatriate, and return aliens who illegally cross our borders. During the height of the crisis last year, we were forced to release too many of these who came across the border illegally. Over the last 8 months, the department has instituted a variety of immigration pathways and initiatives that apply to more than 95% of those crossing illegally today. Among the most effective is the Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP, which we've implemented approximately a year ago, pursuant to clear and long-standing statutory authority provided by Congress. MPP has provided a robust and timely proceedings in immigration court for well over 55,000 aliens. MPP has also played a critical role in allowing meritorious claims to be heard quickly, deferring fraudulent claims, and alleviating the overcrowding of our limited facilities, including here in Yuma. We've also cracked down on asylum fraud across the board. Prior administrations had failed to enforce federal immigration law and in some cases used executive actions to circumvent it. This administration, in sharp contrast, is working tirelessly to restore immigration enforcement of federal statutes enacted by Congress and has issued game-changing regulations like the Flores Final Rule. Additionally, we have issued an important rule that generally bars aliens from seeking asylum in the U.S. if they have failed to seek protection in another country through which they passed on the way to the southwest border. The second element of the President's strategy is the unprecedented multilateral and bilateral cooperation throughout the Western Hemisphere that we have achieved. This includes unprecedented commitments from our partners in Central America, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala to target illegal migration at its source. Yesterday I was in Honduras to finalize security agreements that will provide a safer and more secure environment for Honduran citizens to prosper in. A secure Honduras, a secure Central America, is a more prosperous Honduras and a more prosperous Central America. We've partnered to enhance border security and information sharing in the region to target gangs and cartels. And we've also partnered on the humanitarian front, which is a critical piece of the puzzle. By signing and implementing the asylum cooperative agreements with each of those countries, we're helping them to live up to common international commitments, and we're sharing the burden throughout the region, deterring false claims and relieving pressure on the U.S. immigration system. We've also been working closely with our partners in the government of Mexico who have taken unprecedented enforcement action to address the illegal migration and shut down smuggling routes. The last piece of this strategy that I'll highlight today is the action President Trump is taking to address the threats to Americans from criminal aliens. Unfortunately, certain cities across the country have adopted so-called sanctuary policies, turning cities into a sanctuary for criminal aliens. These policies are an affront to the rule of law and to the Constitution, and they put our men and women in uniform and the communities they are enlisted to protect at tremendous and unnecessary risk. The administration will continue to work with our partners to combat this threat and restore the rule of law and order. Across the board, we're seeing that the President's strategy and the Department's strategy is working. Unfortunately, our progress continues to be slowed by nationwide court injunctions that threaten the safety and security of Americans. These dangerous decisions have consequences that cannot be taken lightly, especially since we remain at crisis levels of illegal border crossings with over 40,000 total enforcement actions in December alone. In spite of these injunctions, we are still making progress on our southern border security, thanks to the administration's forward-leaning and thorough strategy. To close, I'll highlight a good news story that came out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. As you may have heard, on Wednesday, the Fifth Circuit upheld the rule of law by reversing a lower court decision allowing us to move forward with critical wall construction using military construction funds. This is a huge victory, both for the rule of law, but also for the administration and its historic efforts to secure our border. The 100 miles we celebrate today are only the first of many more miles to come. Thank you again. I appreciate everyone for joining us. Let me turn it over to the Senator.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back in Yuma. Mayor, you're always a great host. Chief, thanks to you and your entire team for what they do every single day to secure the border. We haven't pointed out Colonel Pazos, whose team is actually a part of making sure that this project happens, and the contractor and all the people out here working every single day. Sheriff Wilmot, you're awesome. Really appreciate all you and your team do to keep this community safe. It's really great to be here, and Acting Secretary Wolf, welcome back and welcome in this new capacity for this important day. You know, border security is national security. We in Arizona know these are just not talking points or rhetoric. We know the unique challenges and opportunities that come with being a border state. The opportunities come with cross-border commerce, with jobs on our side of the border, you know, for Americans, for those in Yuma County. And that needs to increase. So I really do look forward to passing USMCA so we can grow our relationship and grow job opportunities in Arizona. But we also came from the San Luis Port of Entry before we came here today, and we saw the challenges that they have there and what they're doing, the men and women in blue suits are doing in order to keep us safe from the drugs, the deadly drugs that are killing Americans, often coming through the ports of entry, and also facilitating legitimate cross-border commerce, which also provides job opportunities. I've only been in the Senate for a year. I've only represented this county for a year, but I'm glad we were able to deliver $152 million in this year's funding bill for the San Luis Port of Entry upgrade. It was the only Port of Entry infrastructure project funded in this bill, and I went to the mat to fight to make sure that it got across the finish line. So that is this year's funding. It's real money, and we are going to see improvements at that Port of Entry because we were able to partner with this administration and the House to get that in the final bill. So I really look forward to seeing that project. And when it comes to border barriers, you can see the difference here between the Normandy barriers that can easily be walked over or with a ramp or gone under, and the new wall system that this team is providing in order to help our agents better secure our border. And as Acting Secretary Wolf said, It's not just the 30-foot wall. It goes down deeper, down 6 to 10 feet, each of these sections. It also has the fiber optic sensing. It's got now access roads, it's got lighting, it's got other technology, and all of that together is going to provide greater capabilities so that our Border Patrol agents can actually be used in a smart way, in a strategic way, to be able to see where the activities happen and then intercept it. Sorry, long flight last night to get back here, to make sure that we stop that illegal activity. So this is a game changer, not my words, but the chief's, for our Border Patrol agents. And as you know, here in Yuma, border walls used to be bipartisan, and they really do make a difference. When the Secure Fence Act was passed in a strong bipartisan vote mandating the 700 miles of border wall along the border, also voted on by Senator then Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden and others, this was a unifying issue that border walls work, and Yuma saw that firsthand. When those first miles went up here and the decrease that happened of the illegal activity, it really made a difference. But it's piecemeal, and the cartels are nimble, and they respond and they change their tactics. And so us being able to close those gaps and having a border wall system tailored to section by section, community by community, what our agents need is what's going to help us secure our border. And this is a great example today of what's going to make a difference, not just for the city of Yuma, city of San Luis, Yuma County, Arizona, but really for the whole country. Because the drugs and the illegal activity that's coming through here comes to a city near everybody else, and it's impacting the deadly crisis across the country as well. So this is a great day that we're celebrating. I'm proud to be here, proud to partner with all of you for this. Let's keep it going and secure our border. Now we'll be happy to take any questions from anyone, and I think the acting secretary will join me.
Secretary, the President had wanted to see 450 miles of border wall by the end of 2020. Is that still possible? And if not, what is?
Yeah, so let me start off. We have built more walls the 3 years of this administration than the entire 8 years of the last administration. So I think that's first and foremost. We have reduced time from appropriations to shovel in the ground from 2 years to 9 months. And we also continue to work with our great partners at the Corps of Engineers to make sure that we have the land acquisition, the land needed to build the wall. I will also say that we're continuing to assess the 30-day, I would say the 30-day delay that we had in the 2808 court injunction. So that's going to impact as well. But I can tell you right now that we remain confident that we are on track to 450 miles that are either completed or under construction by the end of 2020.
Your department said Monday, Elliot Spagat from the Associated Press, your department said Monday that it was planning to send Mexican asylum seekers to Guatemala. The Mexican government said it disagreed with that policy, and also said that up to 900 people could be affected in February, just next month. I realize it's a work in progress for you, but given that this is potentially a game changer, could you provide some details about, when it's going to start, how it's going to work, who's going to be chosen?
Sure. I don't have, I'm not sure where that 900 number came from. It's not accurate as far as I know. What I can tell you is that we have, I believe we're about 2 months into implementation of the ACA with Guatemala. So far, we have returned, I believe, 96 individuals under that plan. And exactly one has remained in Guatemala and sought protection. The others continue to go back to their home country. So I think that should tell everyone a little bit about the plan and the like. We continue to have discussions with them about accepting additional nationalities in that plan to include Mexicans, just like we continue to have discussions with Honduras and El Salvador, also have ACA agreements with them as well. So it's an ongoing process. But we believe that that is an effective program that continues to work, has worked over the last 60 days, and will continue to build out. As you know, there's a new administration coming into power in Guatemala. I believe on Tuesday of next week I'll be down there. So we'll continue to the discussions with them as well.
There's been a lot of construction activity along the Arizona border, and especially in areas that are considered very sensitive environmentally, including the San Pedro River, Vaquito Springs, the San Bernardino National Wildlife Refuge. And so my question to you is, given the criticism about there not being enough transparency from the government about these activities, when can we expect to see some environmental results about the potential impacts or no impacts to some of these areas?
Yeah, I'll let the chief address that specific issue since it's here in Arizona. But what I can say is we continue to be transparent on everything that we do regarding the border wall system here. That we continue to reach out to landowners, we continue to engage local communities, local representatives, elected officials, and the like. So there's nothing that we're trying to hide here. We're very transparent about it. We'll continue to be very cognizant of any environmental issues that we address. The Corps of Engineers does a great job there. They have a number of contractors on their team as well to address these issues, and we'll continue to take those one by one. Want to address anything here in Arizona?
Yeah, I would say for the areas that you talked about, I think most of those are in the Tucson sector, San Pedro River and all those areas. So we do have some border wall going up through the Barium Goldwater Range and out in the Capes and Prieta Wildlife Refuge, and we work with true professionals and partners in the Army Corps of Engineers and in the land managers in those areas to ensure that all precautions are taken to take care of whatever environmental issues arise in those areas. So we don't just ignore them and build wherever. We're very deliberate about what we do, and we work with partners, like I said, in the Army Corps of Engineers and environmental folks as well to ensure that we're doing the right thing out there. But also achieving that critical element of border security that we need in these areas. In those areas that you talk about, and it seems like they're far out in the desert, but we had, just for an example, less than a week or two ago, we had a vehicle ramp over a barrier that's much like this barrier you see right here, and that had 10 Chinese nationals locked in a toolbox that the Border Patrol apprehended and got those people out of that toolbox that they were locked into. So people are being put at risk every day by smugglers who have nefarious intent and are trying to defeat our defenses. And we can't have a Border Patrol agent on every mile of the border everywhere. And so the barrier out there in these areas gives us a tactical advantage. It provides a necessary means to achieve border security and national security.
We talk about in Arizona that Mexico is one of the most important with trade and economy. Do you think like the border wall and all these talk about the wall can affect that? And you as a senator, what are you going to do to keep that relationship going? Because you talk about the importance of that partnership that goes between both countries.
Mexico is our number one trading partner, and our futures for opportunities for people on both sides of the border are tied together. And so allowing for that legitimate trade and travel to come through our ports of entry is very important for Arizona and for Mexico. And building those partnerships, Governor Ducey's done a tremendous job, I think, as well, across the border and then at the local level in the local communities. I know the mayor has done that as well. So that includes infrastructure, that includes passing USMCA, all those things that we are all for legitimate trade, commerce, and travel. And I think we can agree on both sides of the border. Let's let the good stuff in and keep the bad stuff out. And we can do that both together.
Here in Yuma. So you said the apprehension numbers have gone down ever since the new border and the policies. My question is human crossing still the main concern for Border Patrol here in Yuma? What about drug trafficking like fentanyl? We've seen a spike here in our area.
Chief.
Yeah, so the question was, are we concerned about drug trafficking as well as cross-border illegal human trafficking or smuggling? Yes, we're concerned about all those things. We are an all threats agency, so anything that crosses the border illegally and anything that crosses between a port of entry or not at a designated port of entry is crossing the border illegally. And there are laws to cover that. And our job is simply to enforce those laws and ensure that we apprehend, arrest, seize whatever commodity, contraband, or illegal aliens that are crossing the border. So if you look at this area behind us here, and this 5-mile stretch of this new border wall here, this was our second busiest area in the Yuma sector in FY19, along with where the other part of the border wall has been installed down east of San Luis Port of Entry. So those were the two busiest areas, and those were our priority areas, and that's where the border wall is going up right now. this area right here, we had hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of people cross this area over the past year, over the past 12 months. And it simply was unacceptable. And the risk that these people are being put at here and is really unconscionable. And in addition to that, this area was being used as a diversion to cross other people, more high-risk individuals, so that they could elude apprehension and escape into the United States.
I think the other element of that is it's between the ports of entry and at the ports of entry. And so as these drugs they're trying to bring in through deeply concealed compartments at the ports of entry, the non-intrusive inspection equipment that we have funded and deployed there is so important. So you're no longer looking for just a fingernail amount of fentanyl that could kill so many people by the human eye, but you actually can see it through the detection equipment. And we funded more of that in this year's appropriations bill as well. While we were there, they were sharing with us stories of school children having fentanyl taped to themselves, to their bodies as they're coming over in the morning. The cartels continue to use unconscionable tactics for them to get the drugs across the border. And also, as we're seeing the crackdown in opioids and fentanyl, we're seeing a rise in meth, and I know our law enforcement agents could probably speak to that. So we've got to be looking at all of the illicit activity and all the different types of drugs that they may be trying to move through, but that non-intrusive detection equipment really makes a difference at the ports of entry.
And I'll say the chief brought up a good point, which is we are building the border wall system in priority areas of the border. We have been very clear from that from day one, working with our Corps of Engineers and the like, prioritizing those segments, those sections that have the highest illegal crossings, making sure that we have the technology there first. So again, we're doing this smartly, we're doing it on time, and we're getting it done.
I think,
Questions?
Secretary, there
Yep.
also on the fentanyl question, I don't know, Jackie, if you got that answered or not, but the Port Director Schwam is here, and he can certainly talk about the increased fentanyl seizures at the port of entry. But in addition to that, at our checkpoints, we have seen an increase in fentanyl seizures, and unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of body carriers where people are trying to tape it to their body somewhere and go through the checkpoints. But I believe Port Director Schwam can talk about what he's seeing at the port of entry.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, we continue at the San Luis Port of Entry. We continue to see a spike of fentanyl cases involving young adults, teenage adults that are having this either strapped to their bodies or they're carrying it inside their backpacks as they cross the border. There's operations that we do, of course, that we do to deter that type of action. But unfortunately, we continue to see these drug cartels use children and kids and the opportunities to make a quick dollar to bring this most dangerous drug into the United States. I can guarantee you this, with the support from DHS, Mr. Secretary, Acting Secretary Wolf, and support from the Senator McSally, we are focusing a lot on using that technology, not only NII stuff, but to being able to bring our canines and other officers and those resources to the San Luis Port of Entry to try to address that directly.
I have a question for Chad. Well, how much of the remaining border wall do you expect to be funded with military funds?
I couldn't hear it.
How much of the remaining border wall section that's to be constructed do you expect to be funded with military funding?
Well, of course, we've got two different pots of military funding that we're using. We're using 284 funds and 2808 funds. So we're using that both from FY19 and FY20. Overall, at least as we look here today, there's about 300 miles being constructed using military funding.
Colonel, can you speak to those? This is clearly a law enforcement tool. It's no arguing the before and after, but can you speak to those who still see this as a humanitarian barrier and that it doesn't speak to the values that are American?
I guess what I would say first and foremost is we're here to make sure the safety and security of the American people. And so we want to make sure that the southern border, northern border as well, but the southern border, when we look at where we stand today, is safe and secure. And so we do that a variety of different ways. I've outlined most of that in my remarks today. We do it through a variety of different tools. And one tool is the border wall system here. I can understand and I appreciate concerns regarding the wall, but what I can tell you is two things, and I did mention it. One is our operators are asking for a border wall system. Very clear about that, no ambiguity. And two, it works. The facts don't lie. It's very clear. When an effective border wall system is erected, illegal apprehensions go down. It allows Border Patrol. We go back to putting the border wall system in priority locations. Those priority locations are locations that is difficult for the Border Patrol to patrol. So we put effective border wall system that you see behind me in those locations to funnel the illegal activity to areas that they can patrol easier. So you're right, it is a law enforcement tool, but that is our job. We're here to secure the border, and along with the border wall system and a lot of the programs and initiatives that I laid out, we're doing just that.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.